I didn't yell, I didn't whine, I didn't even blink. When my parents told me my son couldn't join the family sports day because the teams were already set, I just smiled and nodded like it didn't sting. Like I hadn't spent 3 weekends sewing tiny matching bandanas for the family relay squad and teaching Leo how to pass a baton without dropping it. They didn't even make eye contact when they said it. Just a shrug, a quick, "You understand, right?" And off they went to finalize their lineup of cousins, spouses, and random extras who suddenly felt like family. 2 days later, I found out there were 24 people at that event. 124. Most of them had signed up the morning of. They left out my 8-year-old because, what? He didn't fit their aesthetic. Whatever the reason, I didn't confront them. Not then. Instead, I tucked that little burn away, pressed it deep into my ribs, and let it simmer there low and steady. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's just strategy on mute. It was a warm Tuesday when everything unraveled. You ever have one of those weirdly perfect afternoons where everything's just slightly too chill, like the universe is holding its breath? Yeah, that. I was leaning against the school gate, waiting for Leo, sipping on a lukewarm oat milk latte I'd stolen from my cousin Zoe. She was beside me, doing her usual thing, scrolling through her phone, grinning at her own group chat memes, blissfully unaware of the chaos that was about to land on both of us. "I think today's the day he finally tells Ms. Shelby he's in love with her," Zoe said, nudging me with her elbow. "Leo?" I asked, eyebrows raised. She snorted. "God, no. Aiden, my little menace." He drew her a picture of a flaming cupcake. Before I could reply, I spotted Leo's messy hair bouncing toward me. He looked like sunshine in motion with his untied sneakers and his shirt half tucked like he'd won some invisible battle with the playground slide. "Hey, bud," I said. He crashed into me full hug, then stepped back and frowned. "Mom, why was Grandpa crying in the car?" That's when I noticed them, my parents, at the edge of the parking lot, standing next to their Prius like two grief-stricken sitcom characters in the middle of a dramatic reveal. My mom was red-eyed. My dad looked like he'd swallowed a brick. They waved me over, both of them visibly panicked. I turned to Leo. "Go with Zoe. Okay, I'll be right back." Walking toward them, I felt like I was being dragged underwater. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad cleared his throat like he was preparing for a TED Talk. "We need to talk," he said, like that wasn't already obvious. I waited. "There's been a development about the sports event. Something's happened. I held up a hand. "Whoa, hold on. Sports day. What is this, a sequel?" They exchanged glances. That's when my stomach dropped. I had no idea that a simple follow-up about a tug-of-war competition would upend the last 3 months of my life. But it did. It really, really did. You see, after they excluded Leo, I didn't start a fight. I started a movement. I'm not exaggerating. 3 months ago, I decided I was done letting Leo get treated like background noise in a family that treats blood like a popularity contest. I quietly reached out to a few other parents whose kids had also been overlooked. Then a few more. And a few more. Soon, we had over 50 families, parents, uncles, older siblings, sharing eerily similar stories. Kids being left off birthday invites, family Facebook albums mysteriously missing certain faces. Group chats where one branch of the family never got the memo. We didn't yell. We built. With one group email, we launched something new, the Real Fam Games. Not a replacement, a rebellion. No official sponsors, no polished trophies, just love, sweat, and bubble guns. The turnout. Massive. Because it turns out when you tell people they don't belong, they start building places where they do. Leo wasn't just on a team. He led one. His group was called the Includers, and they won the damn thing with glitter on their cheeks and matching homemade shirts that said, "If you're here, you're family." So when my parents asked why the actual family reunion was getting roasted online, I just blinked at them. "What do you mean?" I said deadpan. They pulled out a tablet and showed me the trending video. It was our event. Dozens of kids, laughing adults, crying, a slow-motion clip of Leo high-fiving another kid midair. And then a shot of Grandma whispering, "Who are these people?" over a microphone. I didn't even know we had a microphone. Apparently someone caught it all. Posted it. Captioned it, "When the ones you call not family build something better." It had over 2 million views. My parents looked wrecked. "They think we're monsters," Mom whispered. "There are comments." I tilted my head. "You are aware people can read, right?" Dad snapped, "This could destroy the reunion fund. We might lose the venue deposit." That's when I laughed. Full loud belly laugh. Because that was their panic. Not Leo's tears when he asked why nobody wanted him. Not the quiet heartbreak I'd watched harden into something fierce over those 3 months. No, it was the deposit. They wanted damage control. I wanted the truth to keep spreading. So I said something that I think will live in family infamy. "Don't worry, Dad. I'm sure someone will sponsor your next event. I hear Karma's doing pretty well these days." Then I got in the car, rolled down the window, and watched them shrink in the rearview mirror. Leo was in the back seat, humming a made-up song about bubble guns, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a side character in my own family. I felt like the lead. I thought that would be the end of it. The mic drop. Drive away, fade to peace. But stories like this, they don't close so cleanly. Especially not when the people you stood up to are the kind who smile at you during brunch while quietly erasing you from the family email thread. See, after that day at school, pickup things got quiet, not peaceful. Just still in a way that told me a storm was stewing somewhere behind locked group chats and hastily deleted Facebook comments. For the next few weeks, I didn't hear from anyone in my family, not my parents, not my aunts, not even my cousin Trevor, who used to text me memes every Sunday like clockwork. It was like I had gone invisible. But oddly, it didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It felt more like I'd finally stepped out of a room I was never supposed to be in. Leo noticed, too. "Did Grandpa get in trouble?" he asked one night while brushing his teeth. I paused before answering. "No, baby. Grown-ups just forget sometimes that kids are watching." He nodded like he understood more than he should, then spit minty foam into the sink and said, "I'm glad we made our own team." I kissed his forehead. "Me too, and I meant it." But the real shift came about 3 weeks later. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making pancakes because carbs and syrup are my love language when the doorbell rang. Not once, not aggressively, just 2 short, nervous chimes. I wiped my hands and opened the door, fully expecting a package or maybe Zoe coming by early for coffee. It was my brother, Caleb, tall, buttoned up, and awkward in a way I hadn't seen since he was 15 and tried to ask a girl to prom with a ukulele. I blinked. "Wow, did someone die, or is this just your new way of saying good morning?" He didn't laugh, just rubbed the back of his neck and said, "Can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "About what, family seating arrangements, or are we branching out into selective memory this week?" He stepped back like I'd slapped him, but to his credit, he stayed. I didn't know they were leaving Leo out. I swear. I found out after. Mom said it was about space, and by the time I realized it was too late to speak up, I tilted my head. "No such thing as too late to do the right thing, Caleb. You just chose comfort." He opened his mouth, closed it again, then finally said, "I messed up." Silence hung between us for a second. Then I let him in. We sat at the kitchen island while the pancakes got cold. He told me that after the Real Fam games went viral, the family group chat exploded. Apparently, Aunt Denise tried to accuse me of exploiting the kids for internet fame, and my mom didn't exactly stop her. My dad kept talking about how I'd humiliated the bloodline like we were royals and I'd forgotten to curtsy. But the twist, a bunch of our cousins, quiet ones, the ones who were always on the edge of the family table like me, started speaking up. Turns out, Leo and I weren't the only ones who'd been slowly pushed out. There were others. Whole branches of our family tree had withered from lack of attention and suddenly felt seen in that silly glitter-filled video. Some of them even asked how they could be part of next year's games. I looked at Caleb, searching his face for some sign of guilt or sincerity. He looked tired. Not just sleepy tired, soul tired. "I think I was scared," he said finally. "Scared that if I defended you, they'd come for me next." That right there was probably the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. I nodded slowly. "It's not about you picking sides. It's about showing up. You don't have to yell. But silence has a weight too." He swallowed hard. I want to do better, if you'll let me. And maybe I should have slammed the door on him. Maybe I should have told him to enjoy his group chat and his place at the adult table. But I didn't. Because Leo deserves to know that forgiveness exists even if boundaries come with it. So I gave Caleb a small nod. Not a warm hug, not a grand reunion moment, just a start. A few days after that, I got a text from my mom. Just 3 words. Can we talk? My stomach did that weird flip thing. The one where you're not sure if it's anxiety or instinct telling you to run. But I didn't run, I just typed about what? She replied, everything. And for some reason that made me angrier than anything she'd ever done. Because it's always everything when it's already too late. When the house is on fire and they're holding a bucket of water like it wasn't them who lit the match. Still, I agreed to meet. Not for her, for me. Because closure isn't something they give you. It's something you take when you're done asking. We met at the cafe near my old high school. Neutral ground. Familiar in a strange way, like trying to wear a jacket that doesn't fit anymore. She looked smaller, somehow. Not physically, but energetically. Like someone who realized too late that the story she'd been writing wasn't actually hers to control. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said almost immediately. I stared at her. But you did. She nodded, tears brimming. I just wanted everything to feel organized. Simple. Clean. I blinked. You wanted to erase the parts that didn't match your picture. She didn't deny it, just dabbed her napkin at the corner of her eye. Leo deserves better than that. Yes, I said. He does. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Done trying to belong somewhere that only made space for me when it was convenient. Done asking for permission to be part of something I'd already outgrown. She asked if we could rebuild. I told her maybe one day. But for now, I'm busy building something that doesn't need rebuilding in the first place. When I got home that evening, Leo was waiting on the couch with his glittery medal and a drawing of our team. Are we doing the games again next year? He asked. Absolutely, I said. And I meant it. Because what we built wasn't just a comeback. It was a blueprint. For joy. For community. For chosen family. And it started the moment they told us we didn't belong. That moment, it wasn't rejection. It was redirection. After that meeting with my mom, things didn't magically get better. There were no dramatic reunions or teary apologies posted online. Just space. Empty, necessary space. The kind that lets old wounds air out instead of sealing them in with a fake smile. But the silence didn't bother me anymore. In fact, I started to crave it. Because when you've spent most of your life being talked over, talked around, or straight up ignored, silence begins to feel like freedom. I noticed little things. Mornings that started without dread. Weekends without guilt. Leo and I began settling into this version of life that wasn't controlled by group chat politics or awkward family invitations. It was just us. Messy, loud, and perfectly ours. The games became more than an event, it became a rhythm. We had planning meetings at the local library. Kids suggested themes like Water War Wednesdays or Obstacle Course of Doom. One mom, Vanessa, brought in sponsorships from her employer who thought it was some new age community wellness initiative. I didn't correct her. Our planning board grew casual at first, but then with spreadsheets and supply chains and even a custom t-shirt vendor who offered glitter print for free because his niece loved Leo's energy. And through all that, something else happened. Word spread. Apparently, families outside our circle, neighbors, co-workers, even the principal of Leo's school, started asking how they could join. They weren't looking to replace their traditions. They just wanted one that didn't leave anyone behind. One evening, I was sitting on my porch, drinking cold tea from the same mug I used back when I still thought being included meant being valued. I heard footsteps. Caleb. Again. No doorbell this time. Just a quiet, hesitant knock against the railing. Hey, he said, holding up a pizza box like a peace offering. I brought pepperoni. I remembered you used to pick them off, but still liked the flavor. I couldn't help but smirk. That's oddly accurate. Come in. We sat cross-legged on the floor like kids again, eating greasy slices and talking about nothing at first. But eventually it circled back, as it always did, to the family. He told me things I didn't know. About how our cousin Adrian had a meltdown at dinner when someone joked about Leo's little rebellion camp. About how Mom had started therapy. About how the group chat was now split into two, one with her and one without. It's not just you, he said quietly. Turns out a lot of us were holding our tongues. You just ripped the tape off first. I stared at him. Why didn't anyone say anything before? He shrugged. Because we were taught to keep the peace, even when it meant erasing parts of ourselves to make space for the same 5 voices. That landed harder than I expected, because I realized in that moment it wasn't just about Leo. It was generational. This cycle of quiet exclusion dressed up as tradition. And breaking it, that came with backlash, the kind that makes you question everything you thought was true. A week later, I got an invitation. A glossy card with cursive letters and gold edges. Family Day picnic. All welcome. All welcome. That phrase hit differently now. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. It wasn't just a call to attend. It was a test. A silent dare to see if I would show up and pretend like nothing had happened. Like the exclusion, the silence, the public blow-up, none of it left bruises. And maybe in another lifetime I would have gone. Smiled, played nice, let Leo sit quietly next to kids who didn't notice when he wasn't there. But not this time. Instead, I RSVP'd with one sentence, "Thank you, but we already have plans with people who remembered us the first time." I didn't hear back, but I didn't need to. A few days after that, something strange happened. A message popped up on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. It was from Uncle Gary. We hadn't spoken in years. Not because of a big falling out, but because I was never invited into the rooms where those connections were built. He wrote, "Just saw the video of Leo leading the race with the water balloons. That kid's a star. You should be proud." I read it twice. Then again, it was simple, unpolished, but honest. And that meant more than any staged apology ever could. Over the next few weeks, messages trickled in. Some from cousins I barely remembered. Others from neighbors who'd heard about the games and wanted to volunteer next year. One even offered to donate portable restrooms because, in his words, nothing builds community like clean toilets and fair rules. And somewhere between all of that, I realized something: we hadn't just built an event. We'd built a counterculture, a space where showing up mattered more than shared last names, where kids got picked for joy, not optics, and where the people who once called us dramatic were now wondering how they'd missed the point so badly. There was still tension, of course. Nothing this big shifts without pushback. One cousin sent me a DM accusing me of trying to cancel the family. I didn't reply. I didn't even screenshot it for Zoe like I usually would. I just blocked her and went back to organizing glitter packets for the next event. Because peace isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the firm boundary that says, "You don't get to decide my story anymore." One morning, Leo crawled into bed with me holding a crumpled flyer he made in school. It had stars and stick figures and a big, bold title that read, "The Includers Club." "Can we make this real?" he asked. I looked at him, at his hope, his bright little world that hadn't yet been dulled by approval-seeking or generational loyalty. "Yes," I said, "we already have." And that right there, that was the moment I knew we weren't just healing. We were rewriting. Not to erase the past, but to make sure it never repeats itself. Summer rolled in slow and golden, the kind of season that wraps around you and makes you forget that things used to be cold. Our second real fam games came together like it had always existed. Organized chaos wrapped in pool noodles and popsicles. We had more volunteers this year, more families asking if they could join, if there was space, if their kids could help paint signs. There was always space. That was the point. Leo spent hours with paint under his fingernails and glitter in his eyebrows, drawing banners that read, "You belong here and no tryouts, just teamwork." He asked me to help spell inclusion, then asked what it meant. I told him it meant making sure nobody had to earn a spot just to be seen. He nodded like that made perfect sense. It should. It always should have. The neighborhood pitched in like it was their own personal Renaissance fair. One dad built a dunk tank from scratch. Someone donated a bounce house. We even had a woman from the city council stop by with a clipboard and an awkward smile, asking if we'd be willing to partner on future recreational outreach. I didn't even know what that meant, but I smiled and told her we'd think about it. The thing is, the games weren't about status or structure. They weren't curated. They were community. Raw, warm, imperfect. Like childhood should be. The kind you remember with sticky fingers and grass stains. And this time it wasn't just for the kids. Parents formed relay teams. Grandparents handed out ice pops and kept score on giant whiteboards. Teenagers who once rolled their eyes at everything showed up with water balloon launchers and Bluetooth speakers. Nobody was left standing at the edge. And yet I'd be lying if I said I didn't wonder if they'd come. My parents. I hadn't spoken to them in months. After I declined the picnic invite, they went silent again. Not hostile, just absent. Like ghosts of a past life I still occasionally expected to walk through the front door. Part of me thought they might show up unannounced, armed with potato salad and performative smiles. Another part knew better. But that day, in the middle of the watermelon toss finals, I saw them. Standing behind the bleachers. No fanfare, no entourage, just watching. My mom had a folding chair she never opened. My dad held a paper plate he didn't eat from. They didn't wave, they didn't move, they just watched. I didn't approach them. I didn't need to. This wasn't about them anymore. It never really was. But seeing them there, quiet in a sea of joyful noise, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but release. Like I no longer needed their validation to prove we were enough. Later that evening, after the sun dipped low and the last balloon was popped and the prize ribbons handed out, Leo ran up to me holding a sticky envelope. "Someone left this on the table," he said, "with your name." I opened it. A card. No signature, no message. Just 5 words. "You built something they couldn't." I stared at it for a long time. It didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like a truth someone had finally admitted out loud. And I wasn't sure if it came from my mom or dad or someone else entirely. But it didn't matter, because they were right. This wasn't just a response, it was a revolution. The kind that doesn't wave banners or chant slogans, but instead hands out juice boxes and makes sure no one eats alone. That night, as I packed away the leftover snacks and zip-tied the trash bags, Zoe came over and tapped me on the shoulder. "You know, she said, I think we just accidentally founded a cultural movement?" I laughed. "Accidentally on purpose." She nodded. "You ever gonna talk to them?" Maybe. Why I thought about it. Because I can. And that's the difference now. I don't need to. I choose to. She raised an eyebrow. That's real power, right? I didn't answer. I just smiled. The days that followed were quieter again, but not in a lonely way. In a settled way. The kind where the air feels like it's finally stopped holding its breath. Caleb started coming by more. He helped Leo with science projects, helped me fix a leaking faucet, even helped build a little lending library out of an old mailbox that Leo decorated with the words, "For everyone." He asked if he could bring Adrienne next time. I told him that was fine on one condition. No performative apologies, no awkward speeches, just show up like a real human or don't show up at all. He nodded. Understood. And he did. She did too. Turns out Adrienne wasn't the villain I'd painted her to be. She was just like the rest of us, conditioned to think silence was safer than solidarity. She didn't say much the first time, just handed Leo a handmade bookmark with little stars on it. "For your library," she said. He beamed, and that was enough. I found myself learning something unexpected during all this. That healing doesn't always announce itself with a speech. Sometimes it shows up as a paint-streaked shirt and a cardboard sign that says, "Capture the flag starts here." Sometimes it's watching your son walk hand in hand with a kid who doesn't speak English, but still managed to make him laugh so hard he fell over. Sometimes it's a former rival showing up with fruit kebabs and asking where she can help set up. And sometimes it's a memory that used to sting suddenly landing soft like it finally ran out of poison. One afternoon, Leo and I were organizing books for the tiny library when he asked Mom what happens when people change their minds. I looked up. "What do you mean? Like if someone was mean before but they want to be nice now. Do we let them?" I thought about it for a second. "We don't forget, baby, but we don't have to stay angry either. We make room if they show up right, but it's okay to protect your space too." He nodded like that made sense. Maybe because for him it was already true. He hadn't been taught yet to carry things forever. That's something we learn, and something we can unlearn. That night, I sat on the porch again, same chipped mug in my hand, watching Leo play tag with the neighbor's twins under string lights we forgot to take down after the games. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my mom. "Saw the video." Leo looked so happy. "Thank you for giving him that." I stared at the screen. No expectation, no manipulation, just a line of text and maybe a little growth behind it. I typed back. He gave it to himself. I just cleared the space. She hearted the message, didn't reply. And I was okay with that. Because for the first time, I wasn't chasing closure. I was living it. Autumn came in, slowly folding over the summer like a soft blanket. Leaves turned gold and scattered across the sidewalks, and everything felt a little more settled, like even the air was ready to let go. The games were over for the year, but the ripple hadn't stopped. Kids wore their Includer shirts to school long after the event. One teacher reached out to ask if we'd be open to mentoring a student council project inspired by it. Leo started drawing logos for Includers Jr. with crayons and cereal box cutouts like he'd already decided this was his legacy. And honestly, I wasn't going to stop him. Let the world build itself around his kind of kindness. We needed more of that. Caleb showed up more regularly now, no grand gestures, just steady presence. He fixed our busted porch light, brought over homemade cookies from some recipe he swore was top tier. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. It wasn't about processing everything out loud anymore, it was about showing up in the quiet. He asked about Mom occasionally. I never dodged the subject, but I didn't volunteer much either. I think we both understood that some wounds take longer to close, and not all scars need to be revisited every time you talk. Then, in late October, I got another message from her. A bit longer this time. No grand apology, no guilt bombs, just a question. Would Leo like to come carve pumpkins with us, just him? If that's okay? We miss him. It took me a while to respond. I stared at the screen, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I wanted to be sure that whatever I sent back wouldn't reopen a door I wasn't ready to walk through again. Eventually, I replied, "He'll decide. I'll ask him." I sat Leo down that afternoon. Told him what she'd asked. He chewed on it, literal and figurative, while finishing a peanut butter sandwich. "Will you be there?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, they just asked for you." He frowned slightly, then shrugged. "Okay, I'll go. Can I bring my own carving tools? I like mine better." And that was that. No drama? Just a kid making a choice. One I never had at his age. That small moment told me everything. He wasn't afraid. He didn't feel like he had to choose between loyalties. He simply wanted to carve a pumpkin. The visit went fine. No fireworks, no meltdowns. They picked him up on time, dropped him off with a small bag of leftover candy and a pumpkin that looked like it had seen battle, but survived. When I asked how it went, Leo said Grandpa's funny when he's not stressed. Grandma cried when I showed her the video of the water balloon race. She hugged me too long. It was okay. That night, as I folded laundry, I caught myself smiling at that phrase, "It was okay." Not amazing, not horrible, just okay. That's where healing often lives, not in the dramatic highs or lows, but in the soft middle. A few days later, Mom texted me again. This time, she didn't ask to see Leo. She asked to see me. Coffee neutral ground. The same cafe where we met last time. I stared at the message for hours before answering. I didn't want to go out of guilt. I didn't want to go because it was expected. I wanted to know if I could show up for myself, not for her. That difference mattered. Eventually, I typed 1 coffee. I set the time. We met the next morning. She looked older. Not in a sad way, just in a human way. Tired around the eyes, sweater sleeves pulled down past her wrists like she wasn't hiding, but maybe still protecting something. We ordered, sat down, and there was a pause. A quiet one, not uncomfortable, just full of things we'd both left unsaid for years. She spoke first. "He's growing into someone I never imagined. So bright, so sure of himself." I nodded. "He is." She stirred her tea but didn't drink. "I didn't know how much I'd failed you until I saw what you built. And then I realized you didn't just build something for him. You built what I never gave you." I didn't say anything at first. I just let her words hang in the air like leaves that didn't quite know whether to fall. Eventually, I said I didn't build it out of spite. I built it because I had to. I couldn't let him believe that love was conditional. I couldn't let him think he had to shrink to be chosen. She nodded slowly. "I know that now." Then she added softer, "And I'm sorry. I really am." And this time I believed her. Not because she was crying, not because it was dramatic, but because she didn't ask for anything in return. No forgiveness, no reinstatement, just acknowledgement. And that was more powerful than any apology I had imagined. We talked for another 20 minutes. About small things, about nothing. That's how you know a wound is closing, when you can finally talk about weather and books without it feeling like a distraction from the pain. When we stood to leave, she reached for a hug but didn't force it. I let her. It wasn't tight. It wasn't desperate. It was just enough. When I got home, Leo was building something with Zoe in the backyard. A little wooden frame that looked vaguely like a lemonade stand, but with Includers HQ painted in marker across the front. He waved when he saw me. "Can we sell kindness here?" he asked. I smiled. "I think you already are." In the weeks that followed, more of the old walls began to crack. Not collapse, not crumble, but shift, like they were finally realizing there was more safety in openness than control. Adrienne invited Leo to a game night with her kids. Caleb started organizing a holiday event based on the game structure. My mom asked if she could attend the next planning meeting, not lead it, just be there, help fold chairs, pass out snacks. And slowly, I said yes to more. Carefully, but with less fear. Because I'd built something that didn't need their approval to exist anymore. I wasn't inviting them in because I wanted validation. I was inviting them in because the door now swung on my terms. Winter came in slow, almost shy, like it wasn't quite sure if it was welcome. The trees stood bare, but not defeated, just resting. The streetlights came on earlier, and the air smelled like cinnamon and firewood. Our little Includers HQ got packed away for the season, but Leo made a new sign that said reopening in spring, taped it to the shed like a promise. And I guess it was, because even after all the big moments, conversations, reconciliations, quiet turning points, the real work was in the days that came after. The normal days. The ones that don't announce themselves. That's where the change holds. The holidays arrived slower than usual. Caleb hosted a potluck and invited everyone blood family chosen, family neighbors, friends who became more like cousins. He called it a gratitude gathering. Leo helped hang paper snowflakes and insisted on writing little notes to stick on each chair. Things like "you matter" and "thanks for showing up." Nobody took theirs off. Nobody rolled their eyes. They sat on those notes like blessings. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath walking into a family space. I didn't scan the room for microaggressions or brace myself for backhanded compliments, because the people in the room weren't the same anymore. Or maybe I wasn't. Probably both. My mom came early with soup. Nothing fancy, but it was warm and homemade, and she asked me quietly if I wanted her to take a back seat. I told her the only seat I cared about was the one she could offer without performance. She smiled, like she understood. Maybe she finally did. And I saw it not just in her words, but in her posture. She didn't dominate conversations. She didn't rush to explain the past. She just listened, helped, stayed soft. That night, after everyone left and the kitchen was full of half-eaten pies and empty mugs, Leo curled up next to me on the couch and said, "This feels better." I asked him, "Better than what?" He shrugged. "I don't know, just better, like it's not heavy anymore." And he was right. It wasn't. Because real peace doesn't land with a bang. It eases in, like snowfall on quiet streets. By January, the messages started again, this time from outside our circle. Teachers, therapists, even 2 nonprofits reached out about partnering or replicating our games model. One message stood out. It was from a principal in another district who wrote, "We don't need another polished program. We need a blueprint for belonging." I sat with that line for a long time. Blueprint for belonging. That's what we had become. Not a rebellion, not a clapback, a roadmap. A lived example that inclusion isn't a concept, it's a choice you keep making every day. The same way you choose who gets to stay close to your fire. One morning, Zoe and I were sitting at our usual coffee shop watching Leo and Aiden sword fight with icicles outside. She stirred her drink like she was mixing secrets into it. "You ever think about writing it down?" she asked. "What we did? What you started?" I raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Like a blog," she laughed. "I was thinking bigger. Maybe a guidebook, a documentary. Something for the next person who feels shut out and doesn't know where to start." I thought about it. About all the versions of me that could have used something like that. A light, a signal, a story. So I started writing. At night. After Leo fell asleep, after the dishes were done, after the day was quiet. I wrote everything. Not just the events, the emotions, the silences, the parts that cracked me open, the parts that made me stronger. And somewhere in those pages, I stopped writing about revenge or reconciliation. I started writing about return. Not to them, but to myself. To the part of me that believed she had to earn belonging. To the girl who learned to shrink. To the woman who kept asking for a seat at a table built on conditions. I wasn't at that table anymore. I had built my own. And it didn't have head chairs or pecking orders, just open spots, always one more. A place where the only requirement was showing up real. That became the ending, or maybe the beginning. A chapter titled, "We Are the Table Now." Months passed. Spring crept in like a whisper, green pushing through gray, soft rain on window panes. Leo shouting from the yard that the HQ is open again. The third Real Fam Games began with little fanfare and way more joy. Over 100 people showed up this time. Some old faces, some new. One kid wore a cape that read, "I belong here" in crooked marker letters. I cried behind my sunglasses. My dad showed up with lemon bars and 0 advice. He just placed them on the table and asked where the sign-in sheet was. My mom helped kids decorate whistles with glitter glue. Adrian ran the obstacle course. Zoe DJ'd with a playlist called Justice Through Bops. Caleb handled cleanup like a pro. It was wild and messy and weirdly perfect. And near the end, as Leo stood on a picnic table to give his thank you speech, yes, he had prepared one, I stood back and took it all in. He said, "Thanks for coming to our third games. Thanks for being kind. Thanks for being includers. If you don't win a ribbon today, you still win because you helped someone else have fun." There were claps, cheers, a few tears, And then without missing a beat, he added, "Oh, and if anyone finds my left shoe, please bring it to Lost and Found." Laughter broke the moment like sunlight. And it was perfect, because that's what we built. Not a flawless institution. A living, breathing, laughing, crying, shoeless human community. When the sun dipped low and families packed up, I walked around collecting forgotten water bottles and bits of ribbon. My mom came over with 2 chairs folded under her arm. "Need help?" she asked. I nodded. We worked in silence. Then she said, "I'm proud of what you've done." I looked at her. "I'm proud of who I became doing it." She smiled. Not tight or forced, just honest. As we finished, I watched Leo chase after a kid with a popsicle, both of them screaming with joy. And I thought, this is the story I would have given anything to live as a kid. And now I get to give it. That's the power no one can take. Not because I fought for revenge, but because I planted something, watered it, let it grow, watched it bloom. And I'll keep doing that, season after season, for him, for me, for everyone still waiting for their invitation. And if it never comes, we'll show them how to build their own. Because the truth is simple. Family isn't just who raised you, it's who rises with you. And love, real love, never makes you beg to belong. Story 2. To prove a point, my sister left my 6-year-old daughter outside a shopping center when I refused to spend $30,000 on her puppy cafe. I didn't yell. Instead, I did this. After a span of 3 weeks, my sister lost everything. I requested an hour of babysitting from my sister. That's all. On Tuesday mornings for only 1 hour. Nothing noteworthy. A brief visit to the doctor. I couldn't reschedule anything I had been waiting months for unless I wanted to start the referral process again from scratch. "Yes," he replied. She actually gushed. Naturally, I need to strengthen our relationship at any moment. To be honest, you ought to depend on me more. I should have realized that when someone claims to be the most trustworthy person in the world, it's generally just before they leave your 6-year-old outside a mall. It's getting ahead of itself, though. The meeting went smoothly. The waiting room smelled of baby powder and disinfectant, and the doctor was as late as usual. When I contacted my sister to check on Al, I was only checking the time. There was no real reason why I wasn't anxious. Ella loves her aunt, and they were meant to spend a relaxed morning at my house. I would have liked to hear more lively, echoey music. Mall music is free when you buy one. "Do you go shopping?" I inquired. As if I had just asked if she had ears, she said, "Oh yeah." Ella desired to visit a toy store. "Yes, indeed. Can I speak with her?" "Oh, she's out there, beaten outside the shop, outside the shopping center." I was on my feet already. "What do you mean, outside the shopping center?" "Do not be concerned. Her dog Cupcakes is with her cupcake. A 3-pound white Pomeranian with booties ribbons, and as of the last time I saw a little imitation leather jacket with the words, 'Dark Mom's Angel,' printed on the back. Ella and the dog were left outside by you. Dogs are not permitted in the store. As if I were the irrational one, she said. I also had no intention of leaving Cupcake in the car alone herself. She struggles with separation anxiety. I could see the reception list glaring at me. I reached for my coat. "Now you have to go see how Ella is doing." "All right, Lauren. She's all right." For about 5 minutes, I was absent. She now hung up after making an irritated noise. The parking lot was nearly halfway to me. Red lights and worst-case scenarios filled the drive. I couldn't stop seeing Alice sitting by alone on a bench, waiting or becoming lost. Or worse. My hands were shaking by the time I turned into the retail parking lot. My sister was the first person I saw. She was cradling Cupcake like a baby as she stood close to the door. "Ella, no. Where is she?" I said. As if I were the theatrical one, he blinked. Here she was. She is 6 years old. Perhaps she entered one of the shops. Yes. While she was doing it, she may have been scooping up a set of earrings from a smoothie. I looked around the food court, examined the corridor, asked the person at the kiosk. Someone gestured in the direction of the bookshop. I took off running. Ella was reading to a doll while sitting cross-legged on the floor in the children's area. She was completely alone and at ease when she noticed me. Her entire face became radiant. This one has a pet mommy. I knelt down and gave her a strong embrace that made her squeal. Then I got up and informed her that we were now heading home. Hand in hand, we left. My sister remained in that position. Same location, same look, as if nothing had occurred. Cupcake was wildly licking her own paw. "Have you located her?" That's what my sister said. Not even a query. She was by herself. Cupcake was too. I gazed at her. Really, I looked. And right when I believed things couldn't get much worse. "Well," she tipped her head, "you understand how it feels now. How does it feel to leave your child alone? You are not required to." He gestured at the canine. "My baby, that is." I merely stood still, in between a stroke and a fit of laughing. After that, I turned back and left. I didn't shout. I refrained from arguing. I didn't even turn around, but I made a choice right then. She had something to say. All right, I would too. And I still hadn't yelled at her when she was weeping outside my house 3 weeks later. She had lost everything, though. After a breakup, some people go into a bubble. Dog culture took over my sister's life. But not right away. She used to detest dogs because she thought they were needy and slobbery and detracted from the beauty of a nice clothing. She was busy being the family's young star at the time. She is 2 years my junior. As a child, she was the artistic, sensitive, and free-spirited person, all of which were code for the person who got away with anything. She would weep. I would be held accountable. She would smash something. I would be held accountable and she would act out during someone else's birthday celebration. She is simply sentimental. Being called the mature one essentially meant that I was invisible. And for some reason, that dynamic persisted even as adults. Like everyone else, she underwent identity changes. Playlist on Spotify. She was a startup queen for a year, then a health expert, and finally a full-time TikTok empath. She was now the delighted owner of a little white Pomeranian puppy named Cupcake. In actuality, Cupcake was her boyfriend's dog. He first put in a lot of overtime at a downtown office. She was unemployed and working part-time from home as an administrative assistant for an unidentified startup. She and Cupcake, of course, were quite close. In only a few weeks, Cupcake had a stroller, a collection of handcrafted scarves, and a Halloween costume that was more expensive than Ella's whole wardrobe. Without a trace of irony, she began referring to her as my kid. She created a vision board with a dog theme. She created a Cupcake-specific Instagram account. In 6 months, she had more followers than I had in 6 years. And in between the gluten-free dog snacks and the bow tie collars, she had a thought. She declared, "I'm going to open a cafe." Not just any cafe, though. A dog cafe similar to her dog and dog parent wellness center. She remarked, scandalized, "You know, adding that most cafes don't allow dogs. It's prejudice. I want to create a place where Cupcakes can sit next to me as I drink an oat milk latte and journal." The pitch was that. No business strategy, just feelings, no numbers. Then the actual question arose. I only need around $30,000 to get things going. Casually, as if she were requesting a trip to the airport, she stated it. Not a full down payment. The thing is this. Actually, I work in the investment industry. My company works with DTC items, cafes, early-stage companies, and specialty startups. I am aware of what burns and what doesn't function. Her cafe concept. A complete tax write-off was only a collaborative cup away. So I declined, just initially. The area is really crowded. Although pet-focused shopping is expanding, it is dangerous, particularly if it is based on a single aesthetic. She blinked. Do you mean Cupcakes can't be sold? Even though I had a lot to say, I remained professional until she repeatedly requested. I eventually came clean to her. I wouldn't invest the funds of my company. To give her more confidence, I wouldn't invest my own money or seem to be interested. She became frigid at that point. Very chilly. This is the point when I want to smack a rolled-up newspaper at you. Because she didn't want to ask her partner for money I was paying for her whole life. For that, she was too proud. Quietly, she asked me. Indirectly, several times. I helped with food and rent. I added cupcakes, appointment charges, and emergency grooming to my basket. I even gave her a spare credit card for dog vitamins at one point. She used money to purchase a $140 sweatshirt for herself that had ears on the hood. I didn't give it much thought at the moment. It was me who had the husband, the house, and the steady job. I assumed she would get over it. He didn't. Rather, she became more confident. I thus reasoned that perhaps this was a step when she offered to watch Ella for an hour. A wing, a little anti-bonding. Instead, as cupcakes were not permitted inside a mall, she left my daughter and her dog outside. Then she was so bold as to inform me. You understand how it feels now. He meant it. I couldn't get that scene out of my thoughts like a nightmare. Her face, the manner in which she spoke. She didn't apologize. She had something to say. I didn't yell. I didn't publish anything. At first, I didn't even tell my spouse the entire tale. Quietly, I canceled the shared card. Rent is no longer due. No more crises. I secured everything. She didn't even notice at first. But when she did, she made it, you'd best believe it, everybody's issue. She was unaware that I abruptly interrupted her, as I mentioned. The most offensive aspect was that, when her rent didn't arrive or she attempted to reorder one of those expensive subscriptions to freeze-dried dog food, I assumed she would notice. For the first several days, though, no quiet. Then, on Sunday morning, when I was folding clothes, I received a text. Hey, I simply attempted to get the card to match. Refused. Very strange. Very strange, in fact. I didn't answer. She no longer had an expense account paid by the sibling with boundary difficulties, and I had the energy to explain this. After 10 minutes, the rent item bounced too. Has the bank made any changes? Then Lauren, next. Lauren, hi there. And lastly, have you canceled my card? What's happening? I just sent one mail. From now on, you will have to cover it yourself. It took her 2 hours to reply. Then she gave me 2 calls. I didn't respond. Her voicemail was left. I choose not to hear it. Then, out of morbid curiosity, I listened to a 5-minute voice message that she sent. She basically vented about my emotional withholding while conversing with Cupcake in the background. This is the result of helping others, she remarked. Talk about all the poison and sweetness. They get resentful of you when you continue to provide. It would have been like me subsidizing Cupcakes if she hadn't paid for dog food in nearly a year. Clothing. However, I remained silent. I was exhausted until the texts became offensive, not because I was acting maturely. You're behaving as though I did anything illegal. I'm being punished severely by you for not leaving my child behind. That's what you've always detested. I am unique. She consistently used the same tone when she attempted to change the narrative and paint herself as the oddball victim of my alleged emotional detachment. She then made a Facebook post. She did, of course. It was a self-portrait, transformed into a cupcake. Cupcake was wearing an emotional support fluff-emblazoned harness vest, which was a dumb accessory. When your own sister distances herself from you on a financial, emotional, and spiritual level, you should read this. You still have your child, though. Prioritize your hashtags. Hashtag family is harmless. He tagged Cupcakes and our mother. Instagram. I spent a good 2 minutes looking at my phone. Then I saw the rising list of likes and thought, OMG, sweetie, what happened? I hadn't checked onto Facebook in months. Remarks. I considered shutting down the app for a moment so she could play with it. Nearly. However, I then came across a comment that said, wow, who treats their sister that way over money? So I made a public statement in response. She abandoned my kid who is 6 years old outside a shopping center. I became frightened and left. She was unaware and unconcerned. I did not interrupt her due to a dog. I can't trust her with my child, so I cut her off. That was it. Don't use hashtags, not a single emoji, not a drama, just the facts. I didn't stay to see it explode. After shutting down my phone, I went to bed. My alerts the following morning were terrible. Screenshots, missed calls, and group chat messages from cousins I hadn't spoken to in months. My mother sent me a note saying we should chat. We did, of course, because all of a sudden she was weeping uncontrollably and I was the one with family problems. Additionally, you could have been able to say it privately. This is when things get wild. More individuals than I had anticipated really sided with me. Claire, my cousin, sent a message. Hold on. She went off by herself. What on earth one college friend didn't? I assumed she was discussing a breakup. I was unaware that she was referring to you. This is a mess. This goes beyond pet parenting, according to several of her dog mom fans. You never leave a child unattended. It seemed strangely silent in the family group chat. At last, my mother phoned. I took it up. We were unaware. We believed that to be an overreaction, she added. No, it wasn't. Cupcakes are not permitted in the store, she informed us. That's all. Apparently, 1 hour was also prohibited in there. A pause occurred. You have good reason to be unhappy. All I want is for it to be private. I wish she hadn't made any posts. She didn't dispute. And that was the entire talk for once. At last, I told my husband everything. He just knew that something wasn't right and that I had cut off communication with my sister, but he didn't know all the specifics. He paid attention. He didn't talk over you. You made the right decision, he replied, embracing Eli. We discussed backup babysitters, emergency contacts, and future plans. It was obvious that his family no longer meant safety. On the same day, I reserved a screened nanny. By the way, I was all right, not afflicted with trauma, unshaken. She just didn't inquire about her aunt. It is sufficient. Meanwhile, my sister fell silent. No calls, no texts. It wasn't until she uploaded anything fresh a few days later that there was even a passive-aggressive comment on Cupcake's account. It was an Instagram tale. There is only black writing on white. Because you love in a different way, some individuals will ruin your entire existence, caption said. I didn't know whether you're aware. I felt a strong sense, but I didn't care. She had not finished, not even close. Following the turmoil, the family group chat eruption, the Facebook post, and a few mysterious dark mom Instagram stories, it had been silent. Strangely silent. Al had returned to her usual. The new nanny was a blessing. In my sister's world, it was nearly a national emergency when Cupcake's account failed to post for 5 days. I wasn't going to prod the bear, but I also didn't trust it. My phone then rang. I replied, even though I didn't recognize the number. It's me, hello. After all, it's over, isn't it? The boyfriend. I didn't really know him. We had already met twice. He constantly wore a cologne named Cupcake that lasted like a breakup. My daughter. May I ask you a question? Oh, he said. Yes. Was she indeed left alone at the shopping center? I didn't skirt the issue. Indeed. Along with the dog, indeed. And how long did she stay out of the public eye? 10. Perhaps 15 minutes. She didn't even consider it an issue. Allah made Cupcake nervous, she remarked. A lengthy pause ensued. No background sounds, no breathing. Nothing except disbelieving air. All right, he responded at last. I only needed to know that. Anger, no defense. She didn't apologize. Just, I only needed it. Perhaps that would be the end of it, I thought. That a week later, I would hear from someone else, possibly my mother or a relative. But what followed caught me off guard. On her account, my sister shared a picture of an empty dog bed with the message, "Lost everything." Emoji of a broken heart. Just vibrations and emotional harm, no tags, no context. My mother then texted me. Oliver abandoned her to Cupcake. She is inconsolable. After a whole minute of staring at the screen, I burst out laughing. By themselves. Sometimes life comes up with a better joke than I could not because I'm a bad person. Select the infant. The emotional support animal is the brand's focal point. She abandoned a human kid due to emotional maltreatment. She was absent from all platforms for 2 blissful days. No ranting, no posts, no hazy pictures of paw-shaped latte froth. Afterward, she showed up at my front door. In the living room, Elle was watching a movie. When I heard the knock, I was folding laundry and attempting to enjoy 5 minutes of alone. 3 rapid-fire bangs of aggression. I was spared from peering through the peephole. I was aware that she was wearing sunglasses, oversized sweatpants, and a sweatshirt that proclaimed "Dog moms do it better." Her untidy bun gave the impression that she was having an existential crisis. She responded, "You destroyed my life." The instant I pulled the door open, "And hello to you. Everyone turned against me because of you. I looked like a monster because of you." "You're a monster." "I wanted to make a point, so you left a 6-year-old alone himself outside a shopping center. The mission has been completed. You always believe that you are superior to me." Around the bend, Alice had peeked. My voice instantly became softer. "Sweetheart, go upstairs. Now." She did not inquire as to why. She simply nodded before vanishing. "In front of my kid, you have no right to come here and shout." I said, "Oh, don't give me the Mother of the Year award. You're also not flawless. You seem so put together all the time. So arrogant. Your husband, your home, and your menial work." As if she were physically allergic to stability, she waved her hand in the direction of the interior of my house. "You made me feel ashamed," she remarked. "Oliver was informed that you forced him to take her. Not even cupcakes could escape her lips." "Name?" he inquired. I was honest. "My relationship was ruined by you." "No, that's what you did alone." He moved in closer. I remained still. "You believe you are the bigger guy because you cut me off." "No," I replied, which means I finally mastered the art of saying no. She looked at me as if she were waiting for something. A tear, a cringe, an apology. I didn't give her anything. Her voice cracked as she replied, "You always looked down on me. Right now, my entire existence." "No," I said. I hoped you would mature. Additionally, I waited longer than I ought to have. Her breath caught. My spouse came down the stairs at that point. He didn't raise his voice or say anything. He simply stood behind me, serene, quiet, and definitely there. She broke when she saw him. "Everything is damaged by you," she cried. "Everything. You don't even seem to care that my life is in ruins." "I care," I said. "My daughter is important to me. My safety is important to me. Additionally, I don't want Ella to grow up thinking that abuse disguised as love is okay. I wanted to get my message across." "You've made it then. You believe that you are really strong," she spat. "I simply quit making excuses for you," I said. She gave me another long, trembling look. After a while, he turned, bounded off the porch, and departed without saying anything more. My mother phoned a week later. She claimed to have moved back in with us. I assumed she wasn't doing well. I remained silent. "You stole everything from her," she informed me. I blew a silent breath. "She's telling everyone she can that you ruined her life. I was previously aware of it." "Is she likely to believe it?" I inquired. "I believe she's not accustomed to consequences," my mother remarked softly. "She hasn't gotten back to me since. No new business proposals, no responsibility, and no apologies. I shall never again speak about her." Oliver's Instagram indicates that Cupcake is doing well. She just stopped to think about a trip to a dog-friendly lodge in Oregon and has a new sweater collection. Personally, I no longer feel furious. I am free, but I am also exhausted. And to be honest, that's more than sufficient for the first time in years. 3 years have passed. We recently celebrated our 9th birthday. He is now interested in astronomy, Mars rovers and black holes, constellations. She tells people that she wants to be a rescue cat foster mom and astronaut. If she figured out the cat portion first, I'd assist construct the rocket, I said. My sister hasn't been around since the porch incident. Immediately following the separation, she moved in with our parents, and for a time it appeared like she would remain there permanently. However, a year or so later, she found a new purpose. A high-end pet wellness company that offers safe, chewable shampoo filled with crystals and chakras. I'm not kidding at all. She moved in with a yoga buddy who let her to use the guest room as a home office and picture studio, making candles with cupcake themes. According to what I've heard, she still plays the long-distance martyr even though she no longer lives with our parents. We haven't made contact yet. Each of us has been obstructed. No phone calls, messages, or unexpected visits. I don't ask, and my parents make an effort to avoid talking about her. We're courteous kind even. However, there is now a silent understanding. I will not act as though nothing occurred. They also won't act as though she is innocent. They see how they strive too hard and offer presents on holidays and birthdays. However, they are trying. Allah doesn't inquire about her aunt in that way. Not because it hurt. She just brought better individuals into that environment. I have too. In the finest sense, our lives are full, straightforward, and predictable. By the way, Cupcake still resides with Oliver. He currently runs a travel blog. I hope I was joking. I, for one, don't miss the mayhem. Not even my sister is missed. Not at all. I don't miss her as she truly was, but I do miss what I wanted us to be. And even now, occasionally I question if I made the correct decision. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Remember to press the notification bell and subscribe if you would like to see more articles like this one. Story 3. I was ejected from my family at Christmas dinner. We've all agreed that you should go and never return. I smiled. My sister remarked. All well then, you won't need this, I suppose. After that, I ripped an envelope and left. They screamed when they saw what I had ruined. I didn't even get to finish my lunch, technically. My dish still had mashed potatoes on it. My sister's boyfriend, Derek, who now lives with us and views the dining table as a food court, was probably halfway through a second serving when it occurred. I had my fork in the air. Eliza had just concluded a lengthy tale about how she had arranged for a last-minute substitute turkey to preserve Christmas, despite the fact that I prepared it, roasted it, and brined it myself. Then, as if she had been waiting all night for the perfect opportunity to throw the grenade, she dropped it on the line. Sipping wine, as if she were on an episode of Real Housewives of Passive-Aggressive Suburbans, she declared, "We've all decided you should leave and not come back." Similar to the single statement. Well practiced. Once, twice, I blinked. Despite clearing her throat, my mother remained silent. My father didn't even raise his head. Derek immediately showed a great deal of interest in his gravy, as if it were the most intriguing thing in the world. So I asked coolly, what Eliza then said it again. Like I was sluggish, but slower this time. We've all agreed that it's time for you to move out permanently. She was not corrected. Nobody spoke. Wait a moment, we didn't discuss about that. Because they had discussed it. Each and every one. Not with me. I suppose the forecast is no longer necessary for family gatherings. My mother twisted her napkin while I took turns looking at them. My father chopping food. He wasn't eating. Eliza looking quite self-satisfied wearing a white knit sweater that would have been warm if it hadn't belonged to the antagonist. Derek too. Derek, who is kind but worthless, chews like he's trying to hide behind a dinner roll. Something broke in my chest, yet I reached inside my hoodie's inside pocket instead of crumbling. Just before supper, I had brought it in. Upstairs, I nearly forgot. Foolish. Really, I was going to hold off until after dessert. I had mentally rehearsed a little speech, something informal but sincere. Now, though, I withdrew. It was a hefty cream-colored envelope. Like a complete sucker, I had applied a gold sticker to seal it. I raised it. All right, I smiled. Why therefore did my face hurt? You won't need this nitwit, I suppose. For a beat, there was a time when nobody moved. Only the sound of the paper breaking. That tiny, gentle tear that seems too silent for its significance. I dropped it on the table after that. On top of Derek's third roll, there were two flawless halves. I went around the table, picked up my coat from the chair's back, and headed for the stairs. After around 4 seconds, Eliza yelled, "Wait, what was that? I didn't stop, though. I had already passed the gallery wall of family pictures and started up the stairs. Even though I'm standing motionless, I'm hazy in the hallway just before the framed image. I began to grasp objects. My phone charger, socks, toothbrush, and backpack. I stuffed my clothes inside the bag without even folding them. I heard voices rising in a frantic rush downstairs. Eliza was in a panic. My mother's voice kept mentioning timing and how she should have waited. I believe my dad finally said something. Derek may have been the one. It's difficult to tell. When they're rushing to undo a stupid plan, they all sound the same half the time. I tossed the bag over my shoulder, zipped it, and took one final glance around my room. The wall scuffed from my tripping over my laundry basket, the twin bed. The bookcase that, despite no one ever bringing it up again, still held my 7th grade spelling bee prize. The next year, Lisa won regionals. I didn't bid them farewell. Slowly, I down the stairs, listening to the commotion as the knowledge began to sink in. I continued walking past the dining room. I kept my eyes from their faces. I refrained from boasting. I just opened the door, went outside, and closed it behind myself. They did not pursue me. They would, but not initially. They would piece it together eventually. They would see what they tossed away and what I had been planning. The letter wasn't the only one. Everything may have been different because of that. It's strange to pack a suitcase in your own home as if you were an invader. Even worse was realizing that nobody had stopped you. Nobody inquired about your destination. They simply let you go. This was not always the case. Well, that may have been, but it wasn't until I grew older and understood that not everyone's upbringing was like living in someone else's highlight reel that I realized how awful it was. Before she could even walk, Eliza was the most gifted child. On her side of the crib, it seems as though the sun shone a bit brighter. At family gatherings, people used to make jokes about it. This one will need your attention. Like the family ficus, they would say, wiping her hair while I sat close by, completely invisible and unconcerned. And Eliza was pretty damned charming. Adults wanted to give her stuff because she had that glossy magazine ad enthusiasm. Her neighbors praised her posture, and teachers adored her. She received prizes for simply smiling and for taking part in events. After a group assignment, I once received a laminated award that read, "Good effort." But even then, I had to split it with 2 other children. Eliza was regarded as a smaller replica of our mother. At last, she was getting it right like some second draft. Together, they go shopping, chat about women, and sit in the kitchen, while I finished cleaning up after supper. "You're the only one who truly knows me," my mother once told me. To Eliza. I was 12. Our dad kept out of the adjacent room most of the time. I believe he believed that being neutral meant not being present, as long as no one was sobbing and the bills were paid. In his mind, everything was all right. Margaret was the next stop. In reality, she was no one's aunt, not by blood. Technically, she was our mother's godmother. But since it was easier, we all nicknamed her Aunt Margaret. Additionally, it seemed too clear to refer to her as the family lottery ticket. She had a lot of money. Like real old money. No children, large house. Before noon pearls. Old money, sort of. She was a single woman. Or sophisticated clothing with pockets big enough to fit both hands and a resentment, and who never failed to arrive with a present that was expertly wrapped and at least one scathing remark about someone's shoes. The family always claimed that she had no spouse, kids, or siblings, just us. And they largely meant Eliza when they said us. When she was still in high school, Eliza began to come see her. Lunches during the weekends, days in the spa. Aunt Margaret had given her small parcels to bring home, scarves and earrings, eventually even a study tablet. Naturally, my mother promoted it, calling it bonding. Said that by keeping the impoverished woman company, Eliza was doing a good thing. No one ever expected me to go, so I didn't go as frequently, not because I wasn't asked. I occasionally accompany them. We would often sit in Eliza's sunroom and discuss books, strange news stories, or how squirrels were killing her garden if she wasn't around or Aunt Margaret expressly asked. She was someone I liked. She never asked a lot of questions, told me what to dress, how to sit, or why I wasn't doing more with my life. In her own way, he was friendly, cool, and a touch scary. She replied, "Every girl should have something beautiful that no one else touches," and gave me a fountain pen for my 18th birthday. It's still with me. It was never utilized by me. Anyway, it's fairly obvious where this is headed. A few months ago, Aunt Margaret died quietly while she slept, based on the voicemail. It was Eliza who received the call. Through group text, I learned. She had been ill. The family wasn't distraught, but apparently no one informed me. Not at all. They handled it with courtesy. Everyone knew what would happen next, so they were reserved the way people are when they're upset over a delay rather than a death. The will. It took place in Aunt Margaret's lawyer's office, a modern, tiny downtown practice with complimentary mints and terrible seats. Eliza dressed as though she were going to a royal luncheon. My mother wore pearls. For the first time since I graduated from high school, my dad donned a suit. Derek was present as well, which was brave of him, given that he is only legally related to this family by shared leftovers. I was dressed in jeans. The lawyer, a stiff guy called Harland, opened a leather folder and cleared his voice as if he were going to sing the national anthem while we all sat there and a paralegal distributed bottles of water. He read it after that. Everything went to me, including the investments, the home, the accounts, the vehicle, the jewelry, and the will. Nor divided, nor distributed. Just to me. I shall never forget the hush that pervaded that room until the day I die. Eliza appeared to be glitching when she blinked. My mother's mouth opened, then remained open. I can only characterize the sound my dad produced as a gentle reset. And Derek, God bless him, exclaimed, "Hold on her." Harlan simply flipped the page and continued reading without flinching. Everything else was routine. Gifts for a library, burial instructions, remarks on the estate sale. It didn't matter, though. After that first page, no. After that, there was stillness as we stood in the parking lot. I remained silent. I was unable to. I was still attempting to determine whether it was an error, a mean joke, or a misprint. The stillness was broken first by Eliza. She said it without glancing at me. What did you do? I didn't know, so I simply gazed at her. I took no action. I hadn't made an effort. I hadn't planned. I never would have thought that I would be named in that will, much less inherit it all. I experienced shock, remorse, and strange embarrassment. After that, they ceased communicating with me, stopped bringing me up in discussions. I would hear quiet when I came downstairs. The temperature drops by 10 degrees as soon as you enter a room. I felt as though I had taken something, as if I were a burglar residing in their home. I made the decision to correct it. I got to work on the letter I was going to give them for Christmas, the one I slipped under my sweatshirt before supper and secured with a gold sticker. I'm some saint, thus I didn't choose to divide the inheritance. Let's be clear about it. I wasn't attempting to play peacekeeper, purchase love, or solve a math problem by doing the right thing. To be honest, I don't believe I wanted to be the cause of their hatred, despite the fact that I didn't request it. Did not play the game cue or compete. It was quite obvious to them that my receiving it was sufficient, that I was the bad guy in their eyes. Indeed, perhaps I still harbored the hope that there was a redeemed version of ourselves, that people would view me differently if I demonstrated that I wasn't avaricious or like them. Perhaps, however, they still considered me family in their hearts. I thus spent 3 nights in a row sitting on my bed, composing the letter, doing the math, and coming up with a breakdown that was generous yet fair. After all, Margaret did pick me, and I kept a piece to myself. However, I neatly split the remainder. A one-time payment for my parents to settle their debts and repair the roof they had been griping about for years. Sufficient for Eliza. Enough to be considered a victory. I'm either a philanthropist or a moron who hasn't found out, so it's not enough to pay for another 5 years of online boutique drama, let alone a piece for Derek. This was a means of escape for all of us, not simply a letter. I tucked it into the inside pocket of my sweatshirt, sealed it in a cream envelope, and applied a gold sticker because evidently I was still holding on to the hope that this would be a moment. After supper, I intended to give it to them. Just a silent gesture, no drama, no words. But everything changed in the week before Christmas. It seemed subtle at first. Eliza began to ask very detailed inquiries. Which interest rate is it? Whether I spoke with a financial expert or not, the lawyer brought up the asset's liquidity. Not yet. Like someone who is genuinely simply trying to see if they still look better than you, she inquired about your recent haircut. Then it became more audacious. Mom added, I just think it's important to remember that Margaret would never have wanted her money to tear this family apart, as she approached me while I was folding clothes. I added, nodding. That's why I haven't spoken out about it. Although it didn't reach her eyes, she grinned. Naturally. However, you'll be acting morally, won't you? The giving thing. Sure as I was going to, I said. I had. However, that was insufficient. I heard my dad talking to someone on the phone later that evening. Perhaps his brother or his strangely close neighbor are saying, Olivia has it all. However, we'll reason with her. Family is involved. She refuses to retain it, as if it were a given, as if it would be an act of war to deny them it. Eliza was shamelessly leaving tabs open on my laptop on Christmas Eve with links to opulent kitchen makeovers and one of those terrible white and gold chairs she adores. Since A, it's not their house, and B, I now reside in the guest room. Derek's suggestion that they eventually convert the guest room into a studio space was amusing. I continued to cling to that letter even though they were plotting against me my money and a life I hadn't consented to. I still reasoned that perhaps if I gave them this, they won't treat me like a burglar who has broken into their safe. Then Christmas Day arrived. 5 people were seated at the table. This year, Eliza insisted on doing the centerpiece. Something erupted that had string-fake cranberries and a pine-scented candle that smelled like it came from a Yankee candle store. Since no one else offered to help, I assisted in the kitchen since I can't stand to watch someone boil green beans without becoming sick. My mother mentioned that the carrots were a bit squishy, but she didn't say thank you. Dinner got off to a tense start. Not out of the ordinary. Nobody paid attention to me until they did. Eliza eventually turned to face me with a smile that was akin to being given a contract to sign. Have you considered how you're going to use it? She said. The money for those playing dumb, she continued. I blinked. I'm still considering it. She chuckled. Just keep in mind who supported her and stayed by her side over those years. I remained silent. Mom added, Sweetheart, it's not about what we desire. However, it would be painful if you didn't take into account all that we have done for you. I was going to respond quietly and politely when Eliza pressed the gas. She swirled her wine and added, Honestly, I'm not even sure how it works. In the end, Margaret gave you everything. You didn't really know her. They all believed it, but they hadn't yet spoken it aloud. Do you believe I did something? Slowly, I said. Nobody responded. I touched the envelope's edge as I reached inside my pocket. That letter was mine. This was a moment I had planned. They were prepared to destroy me over something I hadn't asked for, hadn't desired really, until they made it obvious that I didn't deserve it. I had entered this supper still seeking peace. Eliza stated it at that point. We've all agreed that you should go and never return. As simple as that. As if I shared a room. They had rejected a collective lease by a vote. She was not corrected. Nobody stood up for me. I took the envelope out of my sweatshirt and held it in front of me. Like dogs, they leaned forward in anticipation of a treat. I grinned. All right, I responded. I suppose you won't require it tonight. Quiet and clean. Intentional. In real time, I saw Eliza's grin fall apart. After placing the pieces on the table, I got up and moved in the direction of the stairs. When I arrived at my room and began packing, they were still blinking, obviously unable to process what had just transpired. Allow them to yell. Give them a chance to guess. They will, but they don't know what they lost. The cord seemed cleaner than everything that had just transpired inside the home, yet it still slapped my face as I exited. I heard the door behind me fly open as I was halfway down the path. Olivia. As if I had just dropped something she possessed. Eliza's voice was frantic and piercing. I assume that by now they have read the letter, the one I ripped. Eventually, they would have put it all together. I continued to walk. Are you serious now, Olivia? Are you really going to leave? I got to the sidewalk before she did. She had no shoes on. She wore a gauzy shirt with her arms crossed, as if she were the lead of an independent Christmas film in which the misunderstood influencer discovers the real meaning of family. She tried to sound rational now, panting, "You don't have to do this." We just were taken aback. Slowly, I turned to face her. I'm shocked to be here. Or taken aback I didn't turn over and give you everything along with a card of gratitude. Her expression wavered. It wasn't even earned by you. Yes, there was. She emphasized that you hardly knew her. It was we who came to visit, who looked after her, who to redecorate, who waited for her to pass away. Flatly, I replied. Yes, I am aware of it. The light on the porch switched on. Mom slung her coat over her shoulders and went outside. Her voice was shaking as she shouted, "Sweetheart." We uttered things we didn't mean. Eliza was only speaking on your behalf. I made it very clear. Mom walked down the stairs a bit more slowly now. She remarked, "Look, feelings were running high. But don't let a miscommunication ruin your future." I gazed at her. Bright future. She didn't flinch. You have no idea how difficult the world is. You require us. Families argue, but we all work things out. It nearly made me chuckle. He advised me to leave and never return. We didn't know then. She halted herself. Before you knew that I had already made the decision to be giving. That the bridge that was supposed to support you was just burnt. I am not in need of a ride. I said, "Down the street, I have a friend." Really? You're just going to leave? Eliza gave herself a hug as she spoke. As if you don't even owe us a chat. I gave her a glance. You clearly said that I did not assign you a seat at the table. I turned and continued walking after that. I continued till I reached the corner. They didn't comply. Not that evening. They looked to their extended family 2 days later. The uncles and cousins. The godmother, whom I hadn't seen since middle school, was now quite vocal about family responsibilities and respect. With a hazy hope that you're doing well, the text started to flow in. Some people seemed confused, while others weren't. You ought to be embarrassed. Your parents gave up a lot for you. A second cousin's greeting even included a quotation from the Bible. He misspelled my name. I choose to disregard it all. I stayed on my buddy Ava's couch for longer than I intended to. I volunteered to pay the rent. She declined, stated that you won't be here forever, only until you regain your identity. I believed I had already done so. Then there was a knock. 3 days following Christmas. Just as the sun sets. I was by myself. I almost burst out laughing as I opened the door. As if I hadn't been booted out less than a week earlier, she stood there. "Hello." "I said," she said. I remained still. "You shouldn't be aware of my whereabouts. I was informed by Aunt Lorraine." That's what she said. Described everything. "You ought not to have interrupted us. It is incorrect." I gazed at her. "To say that you traveled so far?" She glanced into the living room beyond me. "All we want to know is what went wrong." "What were you thinking?" I said. "You read the letter. Are you aware of my thoughts?" "Why did you write it, though?" Her voice pitched up as she asked. "Why would you be so kind as to offer us something? Then remove it. Since you instructed me to go, we were angry. You meant it." She gave a quick breath. Eliza is devastated. Eliza feels ashamed. I made the correction. The two are not the same. I began to shut the door. She responded hastily, "I don't want us to end like this." I stopped. This isn't going to end. You're receiving what you desired here. She remained still. I then reached inside the pocket of my coat. "I received a letter," I said. She narrowed her eyes. From Margaret Aunt. I mentioned that it was sent by her neighbor. She stopped talking after that. I took it out wrinkled and neatly folded. She didn't get it from me. I read it out loud. Olivia. I'm sure some people are unhappy by the time this gets to you. It's okay. People frequently forget what they already have when they don't obtain what they expected. You attempted to impress me, therefore I didn't leave this to you. On the contrary, the only one who never did was you. You brought everything you had. No show, no deliberate grins. Instead of seeing me as a stepping stone, he treated me as a genuine person. That candor stuck with me. There is no reward in this bequest. It's a confidence vote. I want you to construct something that is uniquely yours, something you don't have to shrink or apologize for in order to be accepted by others. It's not anything you owe somebody. He didn't. Make strong use of it. Joyfully, freely. Let them ponder with compassion and trust about your future if they don't comprehend. Margaret. I raised my head. My mother was pale. She was aware of your identity. Even when you believed she didn't, I said. Her jaw dropped. Closed. I smiled a little at her. Not affectionate, not harsh, just finished. Inform Elise that I will not be returning. I shut the door after that, and I didn't turn around this time. After 3 weeks, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment with windows that stuck in the corners and groaning flooring. It was mine, though. The lease has no other names on it. There were no shouting sounds in the hallway. I didn't have to brace myself when I heard footsteps outside my door. I didn't go all out. Not quite yet. I could have, but I preferred to start slowly. Little sincere and genuine. I purchased a good mattress. The type that you choose for comfort. Not because the size you wore as a youngster was on sale. I was assisted by my buddy Ava in hanging a corkboard over the desk. One item was pinned to it by me. The letter. I occasionally read it again to assure myself that I didn't make this up, not because I need the reminder. I was truly seen and selected, and that's plenty to begin a genuine endeavor. They no longer call. Rumor has it that Eliza's rebranding attempt failed. My parents are now keeping to themselves, and Derek moved out. It seems like nobody wants to come to the house right now. There was something strange about the vibe. They are not missed. No more. The person I dreamed they would be is gone. However, I've learned better. And the closest thing to calm I've ever experienced is knowing better. I still occasionally question whether I went too far. Not the departure, not even the quiet that followed. However, the letter was. I'm foolish for writing it in the first place. To think that giving them money would change their opinion of me even for a little moment. Or perhaps it wasn't foolish. On paper, it may have been the final thread of hope unwinding. In any case, I ripped it to pieces. And to be honest, I have never once regretted that aspect. Still, what are your thoughts? Did I make the correct decision, or was I as gullible as they claimed? If you liked the tale, please let me know in the comments and remember to subscribe for more.